Central Bank of the Bahamas celebrates 40 years this year, and in keeping with really the central bank's philosophy of inspiring and encouraging the development of art in this country, particularly in its programming to engage the young people and to expand their mind. We are really excited to be here this evening. Now, I do have an assistant. Her name is Jody Minnis, and we are training Jody to take over the curatorship of the central bank. So I am going to invite Jody to come this evening, and she is going to actually be the mistress of ceremony this evening. Jody.
On behalf of the Board of Governors, Governor Wendy Craig, I would like to welcome all of you to this forum on the topic of the orange economy, and I would like you guys to help me to recognize Ms. Pamela Burnside and Mr. Felipe Buitrago. Now we will invite Ms. Burnside to expound on the topic of fostering economic commercial viability and Caribbean creative economy. Please give her a hand as she comes forward.
Thank you very much, Jody. Good evening. I would like to thank the Central Bank. Governor Craig, it's lovely to have you here. Antonius Roberts, who really is the cause of all of this, because he was supposed to attend this conference and then he recommended that I go. And things happened. And we'd like to thank the IDB, of course, the people here and in Washington, for having supported us so thoroughly in making this happen. And I'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight. I said to Antonius, I'm not sure if we have enough chairs. And he said, well, people will have to stand. But I'd like to thank you for coming out tonight and for giving me the opportunity to share my perspective on the Bahamas' creative sector this evening. So as you've heard, and we want to thank the IDB for doing some extra press for us as well, my presentation is based on a short talk that I gave as a panelist at the IDB's Voices of Caribbean Creatives in Washington last month. I have extended the content to not only discuss the development of the Bahamian visual arts sector, but also my views on how Bahamian creativity can and should become an additional pillar of the economy, providing common sense solutions for the country's economic and social stability and growth. Because I believe that these trends are staring us right in the face if we would only see what we're looking at. My late husband, Jackson Burnside, and I established Doongalik Studios Art Gallery in 1978 after returning home to an independent Bahamas, an event in 1973 that paved the way for a blossoming of the Bahamian visual arts. I'm very pleased to state that this sector has followed an upwards trajectory ever since, with continuous interaction, mentoring, and bonding taking place amongst the older as well as the younger artists. And you can see even by tonight that the older, excuse me, Antonius, you are the older now.
Yeah, no, Max Taylor is here too.
Right. The artists are deferring to the younger artists and giving them a chance to make their voice heard. We have been fueled by a constant injection of world-class Bahamian artists who have trained at the best institutions and who are now participating in international festivals like the Venice Biennale, Art Basel, and Volta. Several Bahamian artists are also living abroad in Europe and the US and are making significant global impact with their work. In 2011, Roy Dean, a young Bahamian entrepreneur, stated in a Caribbean Journal article, if the Caribbean is to become more globally competitive, increase tourism, improve regional trade, and maximize the investments made in its infrastructure and industries, creativity needs to be a part of the culture of its member countries. This resonated very clearly with Doongalik's mission statement that by the year 2020, more persons will visit the Bahamas for its art, culture, and heritage than for its sun, sand, and sea. So when I was invited to present at the IDB conference, which was examining the viability of the Caribbean creative economy, I was more than happy to comply. Unfortunately, but I hasten to add, not surprisingly, there were no statistics to draw on to qualify any statements I might make relating to the Bahamian creative economy. In fact, I could not even figure out where to begin to look. So I designed my own survey. But as time was of the essence, I was unable to distribute it, and I had to rely on my own knowledge. Let me state here that I am no economist, far from it. But I trust that with proper guidance in this area from qualified persons, some, or I should say many right here in the audience, including the IDB, the necessary survey can be developed in order to produce much needed data on the Bahamas. I state without fear of contradiction that the Bahamian government has not invested seriously in the visual arts sector, nor does it recognize its tremendous potential. The present success and stability of the Bahamian visual arts sector is due solely to the strength of its creative participants, individuals who are passionate about their profession and its future, with the key component being the strong spirit of collaboration and commitment present in our small but well-knit arts community that has allowed it to flourish, nourished quietly and consistently by several key institutions and private individuals who also recognize and appreciate its importance. So let's look at some of the sector's highlights. Before independence, professional Bahamian artists were an anomaly. There was the US-trained Don Russell, who operated his Academy of Fine Arts, and the US-born Horace Wright, who relocated here to teach art in all of the government schools, including the Family Islands. There was one art teacher for the whole country. During this period, it was nonsensical for a Bahamian to consider art as a profession, as he would be met with a gasp of outrage and be told, "You must be crazy, eh? You better go find yourself one real job." However, in 1957, David Rawnsley transplanted a branch of the Chelsea pottery from the UK to Nassau, and this became the breeding ground for the growth of Bahamian artists, such as the late Brent Malone, who along with Kendall Hanna and Max Taylor, Max, please show yourself, for people who don't know, are master artists, were introduced to this fascinating world and avidly continued their artistic journeys along its varied roads. Kendall isn't here, is he, Anton?
No.
I did see him coming, okay. In the 1960s, the modern art movement takes off, with the late Brent Malone opening several galleries, catering to a very small but extremely passionate core of Bahamians, along with resident expatriate artists, demonstrating that art can be a commercially viable profession. In the late 1970s, the FinCo Summer Arts Workshops take place for approximately 2 years, organized by Brent Malone and Eddie Minnis. In 1983, FinCo re-engaged Antonius Roberts to revive the program. Max Taylor, whom we just acknowledged, John Cox, not here tonight, John Beadle, Dorman Stubbs, Ricardo Knowles, Maria Chisnell, Tavares Strawn, and Jessica Holbrook, all alive, I might add, and a few visiting artists from the US assisted over the subsequent 25 plus years of its existence. The FinCo workshops were an incubator for high school students interested in the visual arts, where they were also mentored by the more established artists. Many enrolled in the COB program and then studied at art schools abroad. Pamela Chandler of the Ministry of Education oversees the present-day RBC FinCo workshops. In the 1980s, this most expensive Bahamian art piece by Brent Malone sells for the outrageous price of $1,000. People talked about that for weeks. But nowadays, four-figure prices are the norm here, which is a drop in the bucket when you compare it to the prices that are touted in the global arena. In 1992, this first book, with 103 pages discussing 36 artists, is a record of how the Bahamian art movement developed. Fast forward 20 years later to 2012, and this publication boasts a whopping 548 pages and is a seminal work containing the biographies of over 200 local artists. Is Dawn here?
No.
She here?
No,
No, she's not. Okay, it's going to make her put up her hand as well. In 1984, I'd like to give them a clap. Happy anniversary song with my daughter came in, so I can't sing it. We salute the start of the Central Bank of the Bahamas' art program, spearheaded by Antonius Roberts, which still continues strongly today, encouraging and exposing emerging talent and exhibiting Bahamian art such as that which you see around you this evening. And please take a moment to go and look at it. The bank remains a major collector, along with other institutions and private collectors. 2003, the opening of the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas, has been a tremendous addition to the stability and exposure of the sector. NAGB has been effective in making the visual arts more inclusive rather than exclusive, as well as forming alliances with institutions around the world and promoting Bahamian artists at international art festivals. In
Amanda's
2000
here.
Oh, Amanda?
Yes.
Show yourself. Please show yourself.
Amanda's the director.
Present. She said she was coming, but I didn't see her. Thank you. 2005, Doongalik. Oh, I went too far. Oh, okay. In 2005, Doongalik Studios opened its Marina Village store at the renowned Atlantis Resort, exposing the largest inventory of Bahamian art to thousands of visitors. Currently, there are 10 active spaces in Nassau, catering to an increasing number of visitors, thanks to cultural tour companies like Islands Tours. I would now like to examine the role of the visual arts in tourism, the country's main industry, under these 4 headings, to point out how we, the arts community, have been slowly but surely developing and impacting this sector from the inside out. Our tourism sector requires a serious paradigm shift to reflect present trends. These are some of the key points derived from this year's SIDS Tourism Conference that was held in Nassau. That's a small island developing state. A, online tools are the preferred method used by visitors for obtaining destination information. And Felipe will talk a little bit about this whole shift in the way things are done in the world today. B, selling sun, sand, and sea is stale. This, when I wrote that, I thought of she sells seashells by the seashore. And I was going to make all of you say it after me. Selling sun, sand, and sea is stale. Let's hear it. Sun, sand, and sea is stale. Creative tourism is described by UNESCO as tourism directed towards an engaged and authentic experience with participative learning in the arts, heritage, or special character of a place. It's the direction in which we should be heading, as you will hear again from Felipe's presentation on the orange economy. Continuous investing in the unsustainable mass tourism market, particularly the cruise ship industry, of which I am not a fan, is indicative of our lack of vision. In the misguided quest for quantity over quality, that is, numbers over substance, we are throwing the baby out with the bathwater. The current carnival situation is unfortunately a clear indication of this, and that's all I'm going to say on that topic. I'm not going to go any further. D, relying heavily on direct foreign investment, that is, from the outside in, perpetuates the cycle of dependency and contributes to a constant loss of funds within our economy, as it denies us the opportunity to develop our people first, using those very same resources that we have thrown out with the bathwater. E, heavy reliance on imports contributes to the stifling of our own creativity and leads to a lack of export development, whilst the foreign-owned banks continue to hold us hostage by blocking our attempts to gain entry into the global shopping arena by developing e-commerce platforms. I'll leave that there with the central bank. As ironic as it might sound, As a country, we were more grounded, independent, and self-sufficient before independence. Think about it. A firm grounding in our art, culture, and heritage provides us citizens with a strong foundation, which establishes the means for the transmission, these are moving on their own, of our traditions and skills, thereby providing opportunities for persons in all economic and social strata to earn a living. Along with these understandings and ownership comes a sense of self-worth and pride that stabilizes the social fabric of the country. The invaluable intellectual property contained in these vestiges of our art, culture, and heritage in turn must be properly researched, revealed, appreciated, and protected. We must drop our bucket where we stand and develop our people first, and then invite the visitor to come and celebrate with us. The visual arts community, out of necessity, has not lost sight of this goal, and this has contributed to our success. Here are some examples. In promoting and marketing the sector, Transforming Spaces is an annual art tour developed and managed independently by a group of artists. And can any of those artists who are here please stand and be acknowledged? Jay, I saw you coming in. Okay, thank you. We have operated successfully for the past 10 years. This year's event, as you can see, called Water, comprised of 5 days of creative activities with 450 patrons over the weekend, touring 7 galleries, displaying the work of almost 100 artists, 25% of whom came from outside the country. These are things that we have done on our own without any governmental support. So these figures clearly indicate that Nassau can be a hub for connecting the Caribbean with the wider global art community, using its resources, technology, personnel, access, and institutions. We were amazed to find when other people came from the Caribbean and they told us how lucky we were to have a national art gallery, to have all of these galleries in the country, to have artists working together that we took for granted, and we were really feeling that we weren't getting anywhere. And we realized, wait a minute, you know, we have something very special and we need to make something very special out of it. So the potential for Caribbean arts is immense and has not gained anywhere near its proper market share. We in the Bahamas have begun this dialogue with Holly Bino and Art Magazine. In Washington, we connected with Mariel Barrow with the Caribbean in Transit magazine. And last month's IDB conference in Washington was another giant step in this direction, as plans are in the works to continue to collaborate. And this forum today takes us yet another step forward. And I'd like to thank the IDB for their help with this. In 2011, Master Artists of the Bahamas, an exhibition of the works of 11 Bahamian visual artists that was curated by Doongalik Studios and with help from the NAGB, opened at the Waterloo Center for the Arts in Iowa, an institution that already owns over 70 works of our most internationally famous Bahamian artist, the late Amos Ferguson. And we had no clue that all of these Amoses were sitting in Iowa, of all places. LPIA, the Bahamas' newly opened international airport in Nassau, commissioned Bahamian art to decorate the terminal and surrounding areas. This was the most recent gesture from a semi-government entity to make the overt gesture of paying artists, very important, paying artists, to produce Bahamian art for a public space. Bahama, the $3.5 billion luxury resort, will open this December and is the first such entity to commit to the exclusive use of Bahamian art throughout the development. The project is headed by creative art director John Cox. John Cox here?
No, but he has some rap.
Oh, okay.
Sonia?
Yes, yes, Sonya's here. And his team. Royan is here. Yeah. That's why we can't see them. They're so busy out west, but never mind. They're doing good things for us. And will boast the largest display of Bahamian art in its gallery, thanks to cultural alliances formed with the De Aguilar Art Foundation. Anyone representing the AF tonight? No. The Dawn Davies collection, and hopefully the National Art Gallery. This will definitely be a tremendous boost to the sector, and we look forward to more exciting things to come in 2015. So integrating creative disciplines. Doongalik has forged links with Islands of the World Fashion Showcase, and Owen, you are here. Can you, yes, right there. And fashion. Incorporating fashion and architectural components with the visual arts. Another, and this is Owen's work here on the left. He's not the designer, mind, he's the organizer of the event that happened. And those two designers had to use architectural components to make fashion, which was quite interesting. And Fashion on the other side is an annual showcase that happens every year. And it also has an art component to it, so it's for young emerging artists as well as young emerging fashion designers. Quite exciting. Another example of visual art and architecture collaboration was carried out at the Collins House space on this year's Transforming Spaces tour. And Michael, you can take some credit for this here on the left. And we also had a fiber collaboration with various artisans, and that was in Transforming Spaces 2012, and that's on the right there. Thinking globally. In 2008, Doongalik attended a creative tourism conference in Santa Fe, developed through the UNESCO Creative Cities Network. In March, the Passionate Bahamian Committee, I have anyone else, Royanne from my committee, Sonia from the committee, anyone else from the Creative Nassau group here? No? Well, we're representing us again. Woo. We officially launched Creative Nassau, and we have applied to UNESCO to be designated as a city of crafts and folk arts, and we are the first small island state to do so. And we have based our application on our Junkanoo Festival tradition and our straw industry. This UNESCO designation has the potential to connect the Bahamas to a global network of opportunities and resources. And we will not know if we have been officially designated until November, but we continue to work regardless. Creative Nassau has already established links with Santa Fe Creative Tourism to become their sister city, and plans are underway to integrate programs with them as outlined in part 4 of their just released, just 2 days ago, they sent me this annual report, which gives us a whole section, which I was really excited about. And you can find that if you're interested, I can give you the link so that you can see the whole annual report. So the creative economy is the avenue to develop the Bahamas as well as strengthen our Caribbean region, as you will hear in more detail from the next speaker. By coordinating our efforts, we can become a stronger bargaining bloc. In the Bahamas, we have proven, missed my last slide, that by partnering with creative persons of like minds, the dreamers as well as the doers, we can believe, conceive, and achieve. Thank you so much. No questions? Yes, thank you.
I'm curious about the Creative Nassau project. So what kind of ongoing events or activities are you planning?
Well, Patricia Clinton-Mayotalis is also on the committee, and what we are trying to do, one of our main goals, is to set up the storyline for Junkanoo and Straw, a timeline that we had at the launch of Creative Nassau. My daughter Orchid did a lot of research in getting it together. And we felt that that is something that we want to have on hand, so whenever Creative Nassau is asked to do anything, those storyboards will go with us, and they will give a timeline of the history of Junkanoo as well as the history of the straw industry. So we're working on that at the moment, as well as we're thinking of doing some film on the straw, particularly the straw industry, because there's a lot of information on Junkanoo, but we feel that people need to know more about straw. We were able, thanks to the Black lady, Claire Sands, she was able to put together a framed straw, example for us. And there are about, I think, 30 types of different straws that have been developed, straw plats that have been developed in the Bahamas. And we reckon there are over 100 different straw plats that have been developed by Bahamian artisans. And when we talk about intellectual property rights, these are not recorded anywhere. They're not passed down through generations, and that is very, very important. We attended a WIPO conference that was held here last year. And we realized that a lot of our traditional culture and heritage is really being lost, and it really could get stolen from us, and we won't be able to claim it back. So that is another thing that I hope the IDB will help us with, to make sure that we have entity, and I don't know where it will come under, because the Department of Culture is another point that I won't go into. But we need a culture ministry. We need a ministry of culture in this country, because there is so much happening in the creative field that we need to have proper people paying attention to it, and people running it who know what they're doing. I'm talking about, because most of the things that you hear happening here in the country, and you know it from your fashion situation, we do it on our own, not with help from government entities. Because I say it all the time, and I'm not afraid to say it, they just don't get it. So we have to do it. They can catch up with it. We don't mind them jumping on the bandwagon after the fact, just so long as we get something done that could help this country and we could be self-sufficient. We don't have to rely on anyone, go begging to anyone, inviting foreign people to come into the country to save us when we have it right here. All we have to do is find it and direct it properly. This is the Royan Dean from that slide, by the way.
On that slide. What, has there been any response from any related ministries to your ID presentation?
We'll see what happens after. But I think maybe because the IDB is here in person, I think ears and antennae will go up, and then there'll be all sorts of things happening. But if things do not happen, then we don't have time. There's too much to do. There's too much to do, like somebody has to do it. Right, Antonio?
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Everybody's so quiet and still. Supposed to be. Yes.
This,
Oh,
I
yes.
wanted to ask a question. You mentioned the art galleries downtown, which I think is quite prolific now. Do you have any information as to how many of the patrons of those galleries are tourists versus?
No, but this is, I know when we were at Marina Village, we actually kept a record of how many people came in and who was what. But of course, in that environment, we knew that the higher percentage were visitors, because Bahamians have to actually pay to go over the bridge and park and all that sort of stuff. But Bahamians did come out. But now that we've moved back to Village Road, we have had several people who have put articles. We had someone from the New York Times the other day who happened to come in. He heard about the gallery and he wrote this article in the New York Times, and we've been having people actually being brought there. They said, we read about you in the New York Times, so we wanted to see the gallery. So things are happening. The word is getting out. And again, because of the online presence and it being so easy to market yourself online, people are actually finding out about us, and things are happening. Because the visitor, the regular visitor, well, what I consider the proper visitor, they want to get involved with the country and find out what is going on with the people. They don't want a false sort of sense of, this is the way we think you should come to the Bahamas and see the Bahamas. They want to talk to the people, and we have several people who come in the gallery who say, I don't want to do that tourist stuff. I want to know about the people, and I always tell them, you just made my day, because it's just so wonderful. And I say, thank you for spending time to explain to me what's going on. And the thing about the arts community is, if they come to me and I say, have you been to the NAGB? Have you been to Antonius? Have you been to Papa? Because we believe in supporting each other. And that's the way we have survived. And it hasn't all been, let me hasten to add, it has not all been roses. We have struggled for as long as independence has been happening. We have been struggling with this, but because we believe so fervently in and with a passion that the Bahamas has something unique to offer the world, that we won't give up. We do not give up. I mean, we get kicked down so many times, but we get right back up. And now we see things happening. I think, everything in its own time. And someone said today, it's a pity that Edmund Moxie isn't here to have known about this conference tonight, because it really would have made a difference in his life. And he came to see me several months ago, he said just to talk, and Antonius said the same thing. He reached out to people in the community because I think he wanted to know that his vision would be carried on. And, he's not here, but he should know, his family should know that his dream will happen. We will not give up. Ready, Felipe? Oh, no, okay. Not to worry. Any other questions? I couldn't have answered all of your questions. Miss Nadine, you have a question. Let me introduce Doongalik Studios, although you just saw the gallery. On the compound, we are now becoming quite an artist compound. We have the craft cottage ladies, and Nadine is one of the artisans there. And next to her is Kim Smith, who also has a place for art there, for framing as well as for teaching young children as well as adults. So all of this happens at the Doongalik compound. So we're quite a family, but we have fun.
We do. It's a wonderful privilege for us at the Craft Cottage to be under the umbrella of Doongalik, Mr. Burnside's legacy, Mrs. Burnside's watchful eye. And one of my pet peeves is what happens at the straw markets.
Right. Oh yeah, but I said I wasn't going to go there.
Yes. But, I wonder how the average person can really make a difference with the authentic craft product.
Right.
And as you all listen to me, you'll know that I'm an adopted child of the Bahamas. I don't have a Bahamian accent, but it is a passion of mine, and I would like to know that there is something that everybody can do really to help with the creative Nassau process.
Right.
And I encourage everyone really to look into it a little deeper. I find that even because I was not born here, but this is now where I am embedded, I often have an appreciation for things that other people find to be frivolous. I appreciate the rake and scrape more than the rake and scrape artist family appreciates him. They find him a little bit embarrassing and eccentric. I find him wonderful and fabulous, and when he passes, who will carry on? And I think if we all look with a different eye, when I greet the tourists every day, it's amazing what they want to see and what they want to purchase, what they want to experience. And even being in Mr. Burnside's family island hut, it gives us a sense of environment. It's cooling, we don't need air conditioning. It is basic, it is Bahamian, it is traditional, but it still works. And I think so many things that people like to feel they have come away in society and they have left behind. These are the things, actually, there's a term out there, it's something like the barefoot billionaire, but people who have reached a level of society where they can afford everything, what they crave for is a simple life and the basic cultural and traditional things.
Right.
So I encourage us all really to, open our eyes and value the things that are traditional.
Right. That's true.
And I obviously applaud you and love what you're doing.
Thank you. And I always say this. Jackson always says, be who you is and not who you ain't, because if you ain't who you is who you ain't. We really have nothing to be ashamed of. We have a lot to be proud of. And when Jackson had his John Canoe show on the radio, a lady would call from Cat Island every week, every Saturday, sing him a song or recite a poem, recitate, as we would say in the Bahamas. And people would say, oh, Lord, not hurricane. But Jackson would never cut her off because she was the soul of what the Bahamas is all about. And she was a much older lady. She got married when she was like 85.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we had Cat Island, and we got it. She introduced us very happily to her husband. And it's just fascinating. You know, we have to applaud those people and those things that make us uniquely Bahamian and not throw them out with the bathwater, but be proud of them, you know, and not try to be who we ain't. Okay, thank you so much.